Every time we start the show, I'm like, hey, are we live yet? I think we're okay. I think we're live now. Welcome, everyone, to episode 18 of Growth Talk. Today, we have a very special guest, Shan, the co-creator of OP.
Hi. Hi. I'm doing good. I'm so glad to be here, by the way. I'm really excited to talk to you.
I'm so glad for you to be here, too. This has been a long time coming, or at least for me, I've had it on my mind for a long time. So, it'd be cool to
Yeah.
have Shan on here.
Yeah. So good. So good.
So, yeah. So, very grateful. And, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. So just forewarning for people watching, there have been some internet issues on Shan's side. So if something does
Thank you for
happen,
that.
I will try to try to entertain you for a while it comes back, if it can come back.
Yeah.
We'll go from there. So.
Yeah. Yesterday we had internet going out a little bit, and most likely it will be a 10-minute delay if there is a delay. So yeah.
It's not bad. I can entertain people for that long. Maybe
Yeah, that's good.
Gone by the time you come back, but
so good. Oh my god, we are both blast last. We're gonna I just realized that somebody wrote they're both blast last. Like, yeah, we're probably gonna like really wait to get started.
Yeah, this combo is probably not going to be much about growth. It's probably just going to be whatever we OE
randomly. Yeah. For sure. I'll attempt to come out with a blast. That's what I could probably do.
I'll attempt to follow these questions that I sent you, but I actually have them up, though, believe it or not, this time.
Oh, shit, I don't have them up. Okay, good. You can prompt me and I'll pretend like I don't know what they are.
All right. First question on the hot seat. This is kind of an annoying question, and I should probably stop asking this one because I think it's kind of hard. But if you could give like an outline or like an archetype of your type, or like in a nutshell description what your type is. Oh, I should probably say what your type is first. It's FMTESE, play, consume, sleep, blast.
Very nice. So, okay, so that's an interesting question because archetypally, it's like, are you talking about my 512 or are you talking about the 32? You know, it's
Let's
hard
go
to.
with the 32. I think that's.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 32. Well, that's good. That's easy because that's just human needs. So you have DE and OE, and archetypally, the DE. So like, there's always positives and there's always negatives. And before I say any of this, I'll disclaimer. It's so funny how much disclaimers I say in our videos that gets cut out a lot of the time by the editors. Because I, as a DE, have to disclaimer the shit out of everything I say because I can hear the peanut gallery. But the positives of the DE is that it is constantly looking at others in the room, or in general, like it is connected. It's very connected. Archetypally, it's the I don't want to use the word martyr anymore. We used to use the word martyr, but I would say archetypally, they are kind of social justice warrior. DE tends to be, I will sacrifice me to help the others. If I find really quickly it turns onto negative, then you relate to a victim. You tend to see yourself as a victim in a lot of areas. So there's like that kind of ends up being the negative side of the DE. There's a lot of victim energy with DE. There's also a lot of empathy that comes with DE. So you have both of those. It's just one of those things where they are passing compliments. They'll get a compliment and just instantly find a way to deflect or spread it out. Fairsies tends to be always the thing. It needs to be fair. It needs to be even. Everyone needs to be equal. From the DI's perspective, it tends to be groupthink, seen as groupthink. From the DE's perspective, it is about fairness. It is about caring about everybody else. Marginalized. They always use that word, marginalized, all the marginalized. And then the OE, just from a chemical standpoint, the OE brain is just constantly it feels like it's constantly channel changes. So it's very difficult to focus on anything in general. So a lot of times the lead play is very leaf in the wind and also very not responsible because so much they are responsible for extrovertedly that they feel like they're not the driver of their life. They feel like they're not the governor of their life. And then therefore it turns into not my fault. You made me, look how fast I make this negative. But again, because they are lead play, let me attempt to put some positive in there. Because of the lead play, they are always ready to help the guy next to them. They're always ready to jump in, always ready to care about that guy next to them, always ready to make their life about the helping the person around them. The problem that ends up being with the lead play is that because they themselves tend to be so directionless, that a lot of responsibility that gets placed on the people around them. So they're very playful, they're very movable, and then therefore they aren't necessarily choosing a path, they aren't narrowing down, they aren't creating order, they aren't eliminating options, they aren't taking responsibility, and then therefore anyone in their life surrounding them that then has to play that role where they are actually giving an opinion, where they are narrowing down, is then seen as a bad guy. And that's where a lot of my types will find themselves as naturally, like, again, like I have to be careful with my word disclaimer, being a victim to some degree, because of that's just not their chosen. They're not the ones necessarily being like, I don't want that, I'm doing this, here's my path. So if somebody has to fill in that void because it's demanded by the lead play, it can be seen in a negative light. So it's a very difficult type to be because of the obligation to extrovertedness, but also I think everybody has their struggles. So it's like, I'm really thankful that I have the ability to care about the people around me, that I can put them above myself. I definitely see that that's a benefit. And I actually, like, I know we shit on OE all the time. I love being OE. I'd rather be OE than OI, even though OI is the hardest thing in the world to do. I'd still rather be OE.
Yeah.
So I know that was not a narrow down. Is like, here's,
I'll try to narrow it down for you. So like,
give us an archetype. I'm like,
Helpy
SE
Helperton,
shit scatter. Yeah, Helpy Helperton. There you go. There's the
OI. Helpy Helperton, right?
There's the archetype.
Yeah, I guess there was some like negative sort of criticisms of your own type as it was coming out. But I think like from the DI's perspective, we see the DEs and we're like, man, they're so selfless. Why can't I be more like that, helping people out, doing nice things for people, not just thinking about myself all the time? Of course, it's in your own
grass
world.
Is greener.
Grass is greener, right? Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, some negativity on your type, but I feel the need to balance it out. Cause like, no, you guys are pretty cool though, too. Still,
we're very like, we're extremely patient with people that do have a way and do have a DI. We will actually sit there and listen. We will actually sit there and be there for someone else. So yeah, there's a lot of positivity in that, because there's a lot of people that actually just need to be heard, just need to be listened to, just need to be seen. Yeah, for sure. And like that's definitely the role of the DE, is they are designed to get out of their own headspace and get into other people's headspaces. So in general, it's a very I guess you could say that it's altruistic. I'm seeing the negative side effects of it because of how much damage it does cause to force somebody else to be responsible. But when DE is done right, it's like, who else is going to stand up for everybody else? Who else would do that? Like, who else is going to go out of their way and sacrifice their life to create balance for the marginalized?
Not me. Thank God for y'all.
I love that. Not me. I love that honesty. Oh my God. Damn. That's good. That's good. I love that self-honesty. Yeah. And it's just a default wiring thing. It's just an obligation thing. You know what it is? Like, I know that most women have this, or I would guess all women have this, but I think there's some kind of like trigger. And, maybe this is a DE thing, but I think all women have been wired when a baby cries to have a certain chemical pumped through their system, where they get like flustered and I need to go care for that thing. That's how I feel all the time, like all day. If somebody has 1 ounce of upsetness, like, you know, mine isn't FE, mine is TE. It turns on like, I need to fix this. Okay, I'll go do something to fix that cry. And it feels like a immediate a triggering, a chemical reaction where I get flooded and I'm like, go help that thing, go help that person. That's what it feels like.
So you're just seeing that everywhere, and you feel immediately like, oh shit, I better fix that. And you don't even think
Yeah.
about your DI or what you need to be doing. You're kind of like,
Yeah,
oh
no,
God,
that's the problem. My priorities get thrown out the window.
that sounds horrible. Like just all the
Sometimes it
time.
is.
Because I mean, that's a never ending fire there that you have to put out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and when you have like world wars, where you see people getting, especially like kids, like as the DE, I tend to um, resonate with the child, you know, the child version of myself, the child version of others. I see that in every DE, and that tends to be where, like, when you see victims, again, this is victim energy. It's not necessarily bad, but that's the DE is wired to want to go protect that, you know. And yeah, when you see wars where children are getting hurt or worse, and it's not fair, it's not right, you get pulled in, and a lot of times you'll get super sucked into, I now have to, for me, because I'm like double activated consume, I now like have to go see every single thing on that topic, because what becomes addicting is to see those victims and then feel bad about it, and then just want to go consume more about it. Like the Ukraine war is a good example. I did the same thing with Syria, like getting really pulled into the images, getting really pulled into the TikToks, and like watching every single story, both sides, and just crying nonstop. Like it was just, it gets so intense where you're like, okay, I need to get to the point where I like don't care about this, where I've neutralized the care about this so I can have a normal day. Right.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds really intense. And I think that the tidal wave makes a lot more sense in context with that, because you feel like you're just having to help everyone all the time and immediately, and you like have to, and blah, blah, blah. Eventually, like, enough. Okay, today I'm just gonna eat ice cream, I'm not gonna do shit. I'm not gonna help you or help you or help you. And everyone else is like, well, I didn't ask for your help, actually.
Yes. That is such a good analysis. Yes, that's exactly it. As well as part of the DE is that it's so connected to what other people are saying about them. You know, that's why the DEs, especially the EJs, get offended so easily. Like that's what's the struggle for the EJ is. Any ounce of a negative comment, like it hits so directional, it hits so directly. That's most of the time where you'll see the burn down, like the burnout from I've been crying and caring for the whole world tribe, and now I asked for one thing for myself and I wasn't respected, and now I'm out. So that seems like a burn down thing. But the like I got a negative comment kind of thing, like either the one DI person you care about or the one DI that matters to you, if they have a bad opinion about you, or if you get negative comments, if people have a bad opinion about you, that's when I think that's more of a meltdown. That feels more like what that ends up happening. And it will be loaded from all the care energy. I've been doing all this constant care energy. So that loads it up. And then when someone says something like, you know, for me, it's you're not doing enough. So TE ... TE, you're not doing enough. Or I'm pissed off at you guys. I'm frustrated at you guys. I'm pissed off at you. I'm frustrated at you. Or yeah, when somebody's like mad at me, I like, because I've been staring at either that person or that group of people so much, I'm like, I get very like, fuck you. I've been doing this pile of shit that literally nobody asked me for, or they did ask me for, but the intensity or the priority that I put on that stuff that I'm doing is way too personal. It matters way too much internally. And then therefore, when there's any criticism, because fuck forbid somebody has criticism, I mean, some people should just keep their fucking criticism, turn it back around to themselves. Like, I have a whole opinion on that. But genuine friends and people who have good intentions need to be able to flow and tell you, you're not messing up in the way that you think you are. You're messing up in this area over here that we'd like to have a conversation about that literally isn't personal at all. There's zero judgment. It's just, we need to talk about upgrading a system, or we need to talk about upgrading a thing. And you just took every ounce of that negative comment and you turned it into something that is personal. Like, you are not good enough. You don't matter. You shouldn't, even be here, those kinds of things. So that seems to be where the meltdown energy happens, but it is loaded from the amount of triggering that you get from the baby cry of the tribe, if that all makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, if you're doing all this, you're kind of essentially like self-sacrificing so much and giving so much up of your time and energy for someone to be like, meh. And you're like,
right,
I can't win with you people. You know what I mean? I can't,
That's what it feels like. Yeah.
No, for me, like, if I get a criticism, it's like, yeah, okay, probably right. I am kind of an asshole. It's
Do you really feel that way?
I'm expecting the criticism, and I'm like, I don't like it, but I'm also like, yeah, they're right. Well, I feel bad about myself.
Do you really think that, though? Do you really think that they are actually right? Like, when the negative thing is it just because literally that you've been paying attention to your own stuff? So if somebody calls you an asshole, it must be that they're right.
I guess I mean, being SE, I'm always going to say it depends, I guess. But it feels like, yeah, more often than not, I'm like, yeah, they're probably right, though. Why would they say it if they weren't right? You know what I mean? Or they're probably like, why would they say that if there wasn't some kind of evidence? And then if you have already pre-existing beliefs about yourself, and they happen to kind of hit near, you're going to be like, they saw it. I was hoping to hide that part of myself. Could see it. And now I'm like, kind of like, I was hoping you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Go for that low blow there. But okay, fair enough.
That's interesting. That is interesting that when the EJ gets a negative comment, it's like, no, you're wrong. And when the IP gets it, it's, you're probably right. Even though both of them are not necessarily balanced. And
so
probably,
to add to that. So yeah, it's a lot of times the criticism, I'm like just feeling bad, especially if it's FE criticism. Like if it's like, Dave, you want to be nice or whatever, I'm like, I'm just assuming I'm not nice because I'm demon FE or whatever. So I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Now if it's like your argument wasn't logical or something, then I'd be like, no, it actually was. So
okay, there you go. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you there. I would be like, I would gear up and be like, let's go. I would be so excited. Oh, let's play the logic game. Oh, goddamn. Yeah, I know it's rare. It's rare that people actually, especially like in interviews or anything like that, it's rare that people give me an opportunity to debate, because I would be like, let's go. I will go hours on debating this topic alone. Because it's just really?
No.
Yeah, because I'm at the tribe. I wonder if TI would be
because it's like, well, there's something at stake, because damn, I better not lose the argument. That's going to take a while to repair all the negativity that's going to come from that. TI, and even if I like do win the argument, if we're thinking about it in terms of winning or losing, even if I do win it, then I feel bad because I feel like I just stomped on the person, and I'm like, there's just no win for me in an argument. Now, discussion's great, but as soon as I feel the chemicals in me start to be like, then I'm like, okay, I need to just be like, yeah, you're right, and then go or something, because it's never gonna turn out great.
That's a very good point. Like, you never feel actual good chemicals when you're at odds with somebody.
I feel horrible. I feel awful. I hate it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. I preemptively feel bad. Do you hear a reverb? I hear or an echo. I hear my echo.
It could be that this mic is exposed to the sounds of my laptop speaker. How about now? Do you hear it?
Hello? Yeah, I still hear it from me. That's okay. Don't worry. I'll just I just want to make sure it's not on my end.
Okay. The echo can be annoying. Like sometimes I have a hard time speaking if I like hearing myself.
Eventually, it does get to where you're like, "What? Oh, that was me." Hello.
No.
Hello. I'm not hearing it. Hello. You fixed it.
ICP man.
Devil observing ST.
ICP man.
Okay, feminine sensory. Where was I? I was talking about debating. Oh, the bad chemicals, and then, oh, my brain. I think this is just TE, straight TE. I get absolutely addicted. Not addicted. I don't know what the right wording is. I get a high off of the truth was seen by all.
Mm.
Like the information was all pulled out. It was all put on the table, and everybody's weird bullshit that they were coming to the table from with their fake arguments or their fake information or their lack of being able to see themselves in the equation was put out on the table and truth was seen.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah.
I would have
So
never even thought that an argument could result in that, but that makes a lot of sense.
TE.
Well, you put it out there. We hammered it out. Now all can see.
Yeah.
Let's follow this, since this is
Yeah.
the best on the spectrum here.
I would not feel that way about F. Like, what? Keep your values to yourself. So I would guess.
Can you even do that with F? Like, what are you going to say? Like, this color is clearly the best. My favorite color is green. Therefore, green is obviously the superior color. And like, now the tribe all saw that. They all saw how
Yes.
good green was. Now they all like green too. So, yes.
You know what it tends to be is like, I, my own self, have put here. So using your example, well, I've put in a lot more time on color theory, and I actually have a very sophisticated eye when it comes to color. So I just know color better than you, and this color is actually better.
I would totally buy that too. Like,
because you're FE. You're like, okay, that is a valid value argument.
Wait, so which one should I like the most? That one? Okay, we'll go with that one.
God, that sounds so freeing. I wish I had that with. It's
I
like I
feel
wish
the
I had
same with the
both.
logic stuff. Like, I wish I could not be so like butthurt about like being wrong about shit and just being like, can I just be like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I'll try that. Like, no, it's different than what I do. It means that I don't like it, and it's therefore inferior to what I,
Right. The inferior thing. Yeah, I absolutely feel that way about FE. Like, I wish I wouldn't dive so hard on negative emotions.
Yeah. Sometimes I wish I could just be TEFE. Just that would make things so much easier. I have so much more fun with FE than with TI. The FE is just like, wee, who cares?
Open. I know.
Yeah.
But all of them come with their weird imbalance,
Yeah.
Because now you're just a lead, tell me what to do, idiot. If you're just
which might be fun for a little bit, I guess. But
it will be.
It burns you out.
Honestly, like all these functions are so great when they're done with, if used in the right circumstance. A wrong clock is right twice a day. So when they're used in the right circumstance, and then also used in a non-need way, where they're not attached to the outcome. And that's what seems like, if you're just talking about a vehicle that your brain is driving, at least be driving towards the right destination and have I better get there at this time or we're in trouble. And therefore
you can't
your
control
brain,
whether you get there on that time, and it's just going to frustrate you, right? All you can do is do the steering wheel and then see what happens. Right?
Exactly. Like if your TI is making equations in your head where you're like, I only am happy if my opinion or my skill set or my way of doing things is accepted as the best, no matter what, then you're setting yourself up for a tidal wave.
You're never going to be happy then. Good
Right.
luck with that.
Right.
I'm only going to be happy if I'm the best. That's it.
And then ... I'm having a bad day. Like, where does that come from?
You're more likely to be the best if you're happy, though, which is kind of the funny thing, I think, right?
Right.
Yeah, good luck putting all the work that's needed if you're not like a joyful person yourself, I feel like,
Yep, definitely. And that's where abundance then come from, and then growth mindset, and then you start building on that positivity, and that's what's, now rocket propelling you upwards.
Yeah. You'd be surprised how much you can do when you don't give a shit, That's the odd thing, right?
Stoicism. That's what I'm working on lately. Just complete stoicism to where, and what's hard about it though is that you're not that excited about anything anymore. You just aren't like, oh, and like attempting to make the gauge balanced, because you can go too low if you're just like, nothing is anything is nothing, but I'd rather not make a deal out of a bad day. I'd rather not be in need that I don't have a bad day. I'd rather not be in need, that my default brain wiring got triggered by something. And,
Mhm.
you know, like otherwise then you start doing the swings, and
Totally.
nothing's worse than the swings. You know?
Yeah, really. And a lot of times a bad day is really bad when you think of it. Like when you resist the fact that it's a bad day, or you feel like that's bad, or you feel like there's consequences for that, or if you like add something to it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the negative experiences really aren't so negative until you like make them that way. Like for me with like there's certain emotions I just get along really well with. Like I'll feel them and I'm just like, oh, there they are. Like that's
Yeah.
fine. Like I don't there's not a like a negative evaluation of them or like a resistance to them. Like so for instance, being sad is very easy for me. I don't mind being sad. Even though it's like a negative emotion, I'd be sad all day. Like it's totally fine. I don't mind it.
That's interesting.
Or being
Which one
jealous. That's
bothers
another
you?
good one.
Jealous is
Those
hard?
two. Jealous, no, jealous is easy. I like being
Oh,
jealous. Like, oh,
okay.
look, I'm being jealous. That doesn't happen very often.
What
Like,
are the
look at
hard
me being jealous.
emotions?
Like,
Yeah, what are the hard emotions for you then?
hard emotion is guilt. That's the hardest one,
Guilt.
and that's the one I feel probably the most. It's just guilt.
Is
Like,
that
Dave,
like,
how could you? You know?
is that connected to shame as well?
Yeah, I guess. I guess it's probably more shame than guilt. So I think I want to say the difference between shame and guilt is that guilt is like you feel bad about the action. Shame is you feel bad about yourself, or you feel like
Others feel bad about you or something?
well, because you don't feel like the problem was the action, you feel like the problem is you.
Oh,
You know what I mean? There's more
guilt is I
personal.
did something wrong. Shame is I am someone wrong.
So yeah, I am someone who is doing wrong things, I guess.
That one would
Instead of
be
like I
a,
just happen to do a wrong thing.
yeah, so that one would
Yeah.
be an even harder emotion than guilt.
Mhm.
Because guilt could be whoopsie, and then shame is I'm not enough. Or I guess it's a EJ wording. It would be I don't know what the IP would say. Is it I'm an asshole? Is what
You're a bad
would be
person.
you're a
I would
bad
say.
person.
Mhm.
You're a bad person, which is so weird because like literally before we got on the recording, I'm like telling you how good of a person I see that you are.
Yeah, I've got you all fooled, you know?
That's your brain. Because like the amount that the tribe can see now, I know I'm speaking from a DE perspective, but like the amount the tribe can see the spectrum and the difference between someone like you and someone else, like I am not kind of confused. I'm not even kind of tricked. Like there's so many nuances, like 100, 1,000, and 1,000,000,000 nuances to what makes a good person and what makes someone just unworkable, I guess I should say. Because it's like you could do a lot, Dave. You could do a lot to be a total asshole and still you as a person, because I'm like watching how you handle positive, negative, this, that, whatever, you're still a good person. And a lot of it does come down to results and intentions. So, you know, yes, of course, you're going to do things that are selfish and fuck somebody else over. Like nobody's counting that. And that's what's so weird about the decider shit is we are trying to play a perfection game when it comes to how many mistakes I made, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I feel a lot of perfection or trying to be perfect in the FE realm. And yeah, you're right. Like I can't see the spectrum, so I don't even know where I fall in it. I just see my own spectrum, which isn't even a spectrum, right? So I guess that's, you know, so yeah, you tend to feel, I think, well, I want to say other lead TIs probably feel similarly. I don't know. You're just like your TI can be such a ruthless bastard, and you know that, and you know the calculating that you're doing, and you're like, do other people doing that? I don't feel like it. You know, I feel like I'm kind of like a robot sometimes. You know.
Right. Yeah. I have seen that with a lot of lead TIs. The constant comment that I'll give in like emails, like the repeating phrase that I end up giving in emails does tend to be an FI category comment where I'm like, yeah, this is not usually my wording, but like it's something along the lines where it's like, yeah, you need to give yourself some self-love. And that's just, you know, where you're like, watching like Lewis Howes tell somebody like, it seems like you need to work on your emotions. You know, you're like watching Lewis Howes like corner that person's type and he doesn't even know what type they are. Like that is the common phrasing that I use for all lead TIs when they're being too hard on themselves. It's like, oh yeah, you need to give yourself some love, like self-love. That's what it seems like when they get stuck, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and I guess everyone to some degree probably needs self-love. Or do you feel like that's more, it really is more of like a lead TI, probably need that sort of thing?
You know, I don't know, because for sure, everyone, of course, right? But I would word it probably a little bit differently. Because I think a lot of like observers tend to have a lot of intense conclusions on information that is wrong. That's what I see a lot with observers, where they're just like, nope, I checked there. You know, like we'll use a fake example, but it obviously gets very intense when it's on something that can be quite dangerous, where they're holding on to information that isn't real and they're absolutely convinced. But like using a stupid example, it's like, hey, where's my keys? Your keys are in your pocket, in your jeans pockets, in your closet. No, it's not. I checked there. And you're like, I know it's in your pants pocket. like
I can
but
see the bunch right there.
Yeah.
Like, no, I've already looked at
that. And like the whole rest of the world is now sitting and going, I'm going to just back up because this person is not moving from this information. Like they don't really want to know. They want whatever they've told themselves, whatever they've concluded and locked onto in their head, that's what they want to hear. And if you do not tell them what they want to hear, the conversation just doesn't end. It always keeps coming back around, and they will spiral into paranoia, delusion if they don't start balancing themselves with. Usually they balance themselves with their deciders because they're like, oh, I'm being a psycho right now. I'm being a weirdo. I'm being an asshole. But they a lot of times will still build on wrong information. So even if they were in need of some self-love, I would still say the same thing to any observer. I'm like, yeah, you definitely could give yourself a break. They tend to be swinging more on, you might want to back up from that conclusion. You might want to back up from that all in on this random observation. And you might want to go get some more statistics and use some more simulating out, like just telling them to go double observe. Go look at your known information. Go rewatch that video. That's not what was said. Go re-look at the email you sent to that person. That's not what you even said. So you're like having to help them go get the accurate information. But
yeah, and even then, it's like, man, it's hard. I know some people who are way off into observer land, and it feels like also like an age-related thing. The older you are, the more you're prone to being in it. It seems like a lot of parents are into that. People when they get really old and stuff, and just kind of like there's no way you can get them out of that grip. It feels like until like I feel like there's I want to say from my own experience that there's like one experience that shows them like, oh, wait a minute, like it's very easy to get lost and biased into like kind of one thing and not really see the other side so well. I had that with Christianity actually, in like a big moment when I was young.
Yeah,
where I was kind of realized like, actually, this stuff could be interpreted as pretty much anything, and it's actually really loosely defined language, and language in itself is loosely defined, and you can pretty much come up with anything you want if you want to. And anyway, I had a whole thing from that, and that made me kind of snap me out of a lot of different things where it's like, oh, I see how you can get really far into just one thing, a little too far.
One worldview.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So easy.
And you just start going back to the familiar, like all of this means all of that, done. And then your brain checks out because it wants to be kind of back to your saviors, back to the things that feel good in the moment kind of thing. Yeah. It's easy to check out from actually going and forcing the brain to stay awake long enough to find whatever objective reality is. It's like super, super draining. Most people won't do it unless they've gotten their ass kicked. And I do see that happens a lot where whether it's Christian, whether it's a religion that you fall out of, or some other kind of worldview, it feels like those of us that have had that happen in their lives get more cautious later on, because you're so used to, as a kid, going all in on, like, you're 3 years old is fascinating. I even watched my own kid do it. Like, okay, I know everything, and like still to this day, he's surprised when I know about information that he just learned yesterday. And I'm like, I've been on this planet 41 years.
Been around for a while. Yeah.
I definitely know what that
Yeah,
is, you know? And he's like, what? You know, but that's once you get past 20, or once you have your first, like when I reach this mountain, then, you know, then they'll see, or then it'll be good. And a lot of people are like, when I'm turn 18, when I turn 21, when I get my driver's license, when I go to college, when I get my job, when I get married, when I have a kid, like they believe these like life markers will be when the world will finally see that they're right. And when they see some of those things crashing, it does bring to some who have a healthy perspective and somehow was able to build growth mindset. To some, it's just a humbling, and then they're able to grow from it. Others, it's like
Totally.
you then shrink the hippocampus and get scared and back up in life. So
Yeah, definitely. And I can definitely relate to Cody. Like, just that brought so many memories back as me as a kid. My mom
Really?
Like, how did you know that? Yeah, I remember one time I came home and my mom was like, "Did you get in trouble today?" And I got in trouble almost every day. And I was like, "Well, I didn't do anything wrong today." And I thought that was like, "Oh, she'll never know." It's like, "What did you do?" It's like, "Oh, how did you know I did something?"
That is so good. That's funny that you say that. Were you like that a lot? Because Cody, with his masculine ST, he and blast, he will like, and he's getting really better about this, because he's actually now able to see in himself that he does this, and now we like joke about it. But like, if he did something at school, like, you know, tripped a kid or whatever, like some kid would be fucking with him, and then like blows and wrestling or whatever, and I'll be like, he'll get home and he'll be like in a nervous state, and I'll be like, "Did you hit that kid?" And he'll be like, "Nope." I'm like, all right. And then just, you know, an hour later, and I'm like, "Did you, with your hand, touch the other child's somewhere on their face, probably above the cheek, you know, like with the 4 knuckles of your hand? Did that come in contact any time between?" You're like, what the masculine sensory STL? And then he'll be like, "Yeah." Like, won't offer the information, and it has to be like perfectly accurate and detailed, or I could still say no. Did you ever do that to your mom?
It sounds like something I would do. I would usually have my own story as to what happened. And like, it would just sound really weird. And it's like, is that what really happened? It's like, yeah,
Right.
that's totally what happened. Like, I got in trouble for like locking people out of the bathroom one time. And like, I told my parents, like, yeah, I didn't even lock people out. I just turned the lock out and I unlocked it. And that was it. And then somebody told on me, but I didn't. I was
That
just playing
makes
with the lock.
sense.
That's it.
Yeah. I see. I like, it's like, for us, the demon and I, it's like, I know where you're going with this, and I'm still gonna fuck with you, because I'm gonna be like, nope, I didn't do that. Like, they're looking for like, did the process and the event that happened lock people out of the bathroom? And you're like, all I'm responsible for is I turned the lock like this, and then I went like that.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. That's
Just,
exactly it.
I just, I happened to get caught, but I didn't do anything wrong. Just happened to be told on. That's the problem, is the fact that I got told on, not that it happened.
Not that I did it.
The
Not
fact
that it
that somebody's a
happened.
snitch.
Yeah. It's that damn kid. Fuck that guy.
Exactly. Well, so what were you like when you were young? What was little Shanny like? Was it similar to Cody at all, or was it quite different?
A lot. I was very similar to Cody. I had a lot of the last cauldron energy that he naturally has, where you'll get kind of stuck in a place or stuck in a position for long, like hard to transition from one thing to another, hard to leave. You get stuck in places, you get stuck in things, you get stuck in, I don't even want to get off this couch kind of thing. So I had and have all of those same struggles. He's really naturally good at school, and so am I. That was something that I happened to be good at. Like, he's just able to do the TESE. You want me to learn random bullshit about a thing? Okay, I will learn random bullshit about a thing. I will memorize that, and then I'll show up and I'll take the test and I'll do good. And like, he seems to even be better at that than I do, because he can memorize the facts where I couldn't memorize the facts. I would have to cram before tests, and then I would ace the test. And then if you asked me one day later what any of the things were, I'd be screwed. So
Yeah,
I was never able to retain any of it. But yeah. But as far as like personality wise, I was, and he and I do the same thing, where it's you want the approval from the teacher. So I always annoyingly trying to get credit for knowing an answer. So that was the annoying thing about me. I think
I was the one that reminded the teacher that she forgot to give
hell no. Well, I say that, but in college I remember doing this specifically in one class where it was a computer class, and I wanted to learn how to do websites at the time. And so I asked if we could, for our final project, create a website, which actually the class was excited about, because it was pushing, it was pushing the teacher to come up with a project that she didn't have on her list. And it then gave us all an opportunity to be able to come to create our own websites, which at the time was super cool. Like, it was like new and super cool. But I was more annoying in college. I think in high school I was just one of those kids that well, now that I think about it, I was in the popular group, and we were all kind of assholes in the back of the room that would talk and do our makeup. So I mean, that's a lot of the time what I was often getting in trouble for dicking around in class. Even though I got good grades, my teachers tended to, the female teachers didn't like me. The male teachers, I was like best friends. College was different. I had an agenda in college. I was like, I am going to get fucking straight A's. And I almost did. There was like 2 classes that I got B's in, which I was really pissed about. Fucking advanced biology, like fuck you.
Advanced anything usually is a tough one.
Just fucking why anything. So yeah, I graduated at the top of my class. I was a snooty patootie. I got, magna, fuck you, whatever it's called, cum laude. And I was attempting to actually be perfect in college. For some reason, I wanted that. TESE. I'm going to get all the skills and all the stuff so I could have any job. We'll see from here on out. So dumb. So yeah, that's why I was in college. I was definitely the kid that was hated because I was fucking with the curve in college. But yeah.
Okay, you've been the kid I was mad at in college.
Yes. Definitely. I definitely pissed off a lot of really normal and cool people that I could have just like dialed it down and been a normal person. Yep, for sure. Yeah.
So did you I guess the way you described it, I guess you could kind of see your type and all of that. Did you feel like your personality was wildly different than what it is when you were an adult, or do you feel like it was a pretty steady stream for the most part?
No, I would say that when looking back, and I struggled with this a lot when it's called something like, rosy glasses bias or some shit like that. I think that's the term for it or whatever. But when you look back, you like only remember the good shit you did. No, I was really on it. I was really this, I was really that. And no, that was actually because of my dad, or that was actually because of the religion or something like that. Like, when looking back, we all tend to see ourselves in only first person perspective and only by our intentions. In fact, I see that's where most people have a really hard time seeing themselves and typing themselves and whatever, is because they're only qualifying their intentions and concluding based on their intentions, not any kind of what the actual objective world is asking from them. So I am absolutely no different. When we first started this stuff, I was blatantly looking back on myself in a positive light, and have had to come to terms and reality with actually me and everyone around me is just a person in their own Matrix movie that was just not paying attention. That person was, my parents weren't, my family wasn't, excuse me, no one around me was even paying attention. And I was getting away with my subjectivity intensely. And and savior functions intensely. So now, the problem for me now, the positive and the problem for me now, is that the thing that I would say, you know, what is different? I know I said no at the beginning, but I'm T. Everything starts with the word no. I'm just realizing that right now, like no, and then I let go to tell how it is actually different. Let me get a drink. Technically, what I would say now is that over the last decade, I've grown in consciousness. And that's been an extremely painful process. And I still continue to grow in consciousness. There's still a lot of layers where I'm watching my brain come up with information that is totally not true. And that's been a massive change in me, is the ability to stop, slow down my brain, be able to look at it's fascinating watching my brain at this point, because I can now actually see the information that happened, and I can actually hear the trigger inside my mind interpret the information that happened in an EJ way. And you're like, what the fuck? And so, you know, for many years, it brings, when you start seeing that, it's extremely traumatizing, because you know, my whole life is a lie. So obviously that changed a lot of my personality. Like my functions haven't changed at all. I've just been able to hear my wiring. But of course, that being able to hear your wiring changes massively how you engage the world. Because especially for Blast Last, like it's done a lot of like, oh shit, like you get scared, you get really hippocampus hit, don't do anything, don't move backwards, go sit in a closet, be scared, you know, like a lot of that naturally was what started, you know, created extreme darkness. Because you're like, if I can see my brain when I'm at a hyper heightened consciousness state, interpreting information coming in completely incorrectly, like, how much have I been doing that my whole life? What is true? What is not? What is real? What is not? You know, my functions ST.
So there wasn't a feeling of like relief from that, being like, oh wait, I can see it now.
There's definitely been that as well. There's definitely been that as well. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess it's been about both like, holy crap, what have I been doing? And then the other's like, oh, I've grown.
Yeah, for sure. So talking about the relief side, there's definitely a massive relief side when you're like, okay, that makes sense of everything. Like that's brought a lot of peace. That's brought so much peace. That's brought so much joy, because confusion is a very horrible mind space to be in. And a lot of people will go throughout life, and all the series of events in their life will be confusing, because they're like they're missing information. They're missing information from themselves. They're missing information from the tribe. They're missing information in the intuitive guessing, the patterns, the connections, or they're missing the facts. And that confusion state, it brings massive panic attacks. It brings massive anxiety, and it brings massive depression to the human. So, you know, it's the same thing with a car. Like if your car has flashing dashboards, we talk car analogies all the time, but like if you have flashing red dots on your, or let's use a plane because it's even more dangerous. You're in a plane and it starts beeping and flashing at you, and you're like, I have no idea what's wrong. And it's a panic, you know. And that anxiety is why a lot of people will have anxiety or will have depression, because they don't know that it's like, oh, actually, it's just telling you that your windshield wiper fluid is out, you know, like
you're doing a good job as a pilot. Don't worry about that.
You're going to live, you're going to survive. You're doing just fine. It's just this thing over here. Now, it still is traumatizing when it's like, actually, it's your fuel gauge and you are fucked and you have been fucked and you behave like this as a pilot all the time. You fucking leave the ground and you don't check your fuel constantly. In fact, you do that every day. And we've already gone through this. Once every month, you go, oh God, oh God, oh God, my gas tank is empty. And you barely landed. And then you go, Whew. And then the anxiety gets you so riled up, you forget what even started it. And then you just go on with your day and you don't do anything to change it or adjust or anything like that. And the relief side of this is like, oh shit, this is just me. And, you know, as a decider, it's like, oh, that's why that relationship didn't work out. Oh, that's why my relationship with my parents didn't work out. Oh, that's why my relationship with the church was so hostile. Oh, that's why my relationship with my neighbors or my boss or my siblings was so hostile. And it gives you like the manual. But you know, now you have to like work through like, how the fuck do I actually help myself remember? You do this every month. You drive without gas every month. Now it's time to get to work on, even though it is literally the most draining thing in the world, you're going to have to figure out how to get like robots to help you survive and remember this shit. Like set a fucking alarm, set your gauge to freak you out when you still have, you know, 5 gallons left. Like you're now like working on the actual problem itself instead of living in confusion, because the not knowing of what gauge on your dashboard is off. It could be this, or it could be like this, but your brain still sees it as the same. It's windshield wiper fluid that's down, or your whole fucking plane is going to crash, and your brain interprets it as the same. And it's being able to go, oh, let me flip to page 3. I'm being an EJ again, and that person told me really good news, and I interpret it as they're working hard, I'm not working hard, therefore equal sign, I'm not good enough, and eventually they're going to be tired of me and they're going to want me out of their life, and they hate me. And that is my math. And if I am in a bad state, I will find it. I will find it. And this is every single human. So it's just knowing your parts, knowing your math, knowing your wiring, and going, all right, how many times a day is my brain doing this? It is very exhausting. It does get overwhelming at times where you're like, fuck, I wish I could just turn this switch off. But at least staying conscious of that switch and what it is that it is interpreting, it does give you a lot of ability to be like, this is just a fucking game. Like, this is just a video game where you have to go like poke the button 5 times a day to be like, okay, EJ information incorrect. And that doesn't mean that it turns off the information. Like the wiring still will be like, I don't know. And you're like, shut up. It's like, I don't know. You really aren't good enough. Like, even though you will logically know that isn't accurate, that's not true, you still have to fight the wiring, you know? So that's the part of it that becomes hard. But I don't care. I would rather, because like from what I've seen with everybody, when they are in the confusion part of their brain, they do very dangerous things to themselves and others. And that is always a life that ends in tragedy to some degree, whether it's you live in depression, you live in emptiness, you live in anxiety. It's just always a miserable life. Whereas this life, where you're conscious of the objectivity of what your brain wiring is constantly trying to project onto events that happen all day long, if you're consciously aware of that, then you at least have a chance to build systems for your mind, for your mind space. And that's a place I'd rather be. I'd rather be aware than riding the wave.
Yeah. And then it's fun too, right? To build systems to like,
it is. That's a great attitude.
If it becomes like a game, and you know, you're cool where you're at, and you can only go up. You know?
I love that. What a great attitude. That is a very growth mindset of you. And it's fun. I love that.
I mean, I feel like I like where I'm at.
Good.
Of course, I get really down on myself sometimes, and there's definitely a lot more place to go. But
it
would kind of suck if you were already up there, right? If you had everything fixed, everything solved, what would you do?
That's such a good growth mindset attitude too. Like, well, then I would be done, and that would be boring.
It'd be like, imagine if everyone's put cheat codes on a game at one point, and then it ruined the game that you couldn't.
That is such a good analogy. I know. I try to tell Cody that. That's so good. I will remember that, because it's like, The worst games are the ones that you jump in and you can figure it out instantly, and then you're like
Mm.
just hitting the go button to get like coins or whatever. Like the best games are
Yeah.
the ones where it just takes you forever to figure out how to get to level 2 or whatever, like impossible to beat it. So yeah, that's very, very true. The human mind needs a challenge, so let it be this one instead of, you're moving in the right direction, you're hitting in the right spot of the wall instead of I have no idea what the problem is. Flashing lights and I don't even know. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that's really good. Love
The
that.
flashing lights can be scary because sometimes if you take the flashing lights too seriously, they cause more lights to flash, and then you're really in
Yeah.
trouble then, you know?
Right.
Because,
And that's back to what you were saying earlier about people who get older and kind of double down. A lot of what I see with that, the people that are doubling down, is they will have their wrong interpretations of reality. They will have their wrong projections from their wiring onto reality. And literally, the universe absolutely, and I've lived this so intensely, the universe absolutely gives them what they are projecting. And then they double down even more, and then they project, and then they get it back. And it's a crazy ass cycle where, picking on the EPs, if you are afraid of control, then you yell at the government and go after the government, and then they put you in handcuffs. Like, just the first example I could think of. But
self-fulfilling
like,
prophecy, and then they feel
yeah,
like they were right in all their thoughts that they had
they're
and
like,
all
see, I
that, and
told
then it's
you.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Scary.
Yeah, I've seen that there's some people close to me that I suspect are lead OI, and it just feels like they're just building a prison around themselves. Like they're just
Yeah,
slowly encasing themselves in this non-movable thing and almost like just suffocating the life out of themselves
for sure.
with everything that
Even though
they're
they
building
want
and
freedom.
protecting themselves from.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
you only got a few years left here. Maybe,
I
go fuck
know.
around a bit. Like, because like it doesn't look like you're very happy. And it seems like the thing you've been doing your whole life to make yourself happy, it ain't working because, look where you're at.
Yeah.
Maybe just do the opposite for a little bit.
It's so easy. Yeah, it's definitely easy to see that from the outside. Like how sad, huh? Building a life
Yeah,
where
extremely sad. And then you just really and you think like, or at least from my perspective, it's like it's not really their fault. It's kind of like you get the cards that you're dealt with in life, and you have the
yeah,
childhood that you have,
yeah,
and not everyone is able to think in like a growth sort of way,
right,
unfortunately.
right.
And so it's just like that just doesn't seem fair. You know what I mean? But like that is
Where do
life.
you so like it's very apparent to me that you have growth mindset. Why do you think you have growth mindset? Where do you think that came from? Would you say like that was from birth, or would you say um I'm just asking for a random opinion, it doesn't have to be perfect. Or do you think it came from your parents? What is like from your perspective where your growth mindset came from?
Well, I'm happy you say that. I can't really evaluate my own mindset to whether it's super growthy or not. I guess in some ways it very much is. In other ways, I tend to
You
hold on.
turn everything into a half glass full. I tend to be the
Mhm.
opposite. I struggle with fixed mindset a lot. That's something I have to work on a lot. I very much am a glass half empty. And I see like even in my phrasing, everything I'm saying, you're turning it. Well, that's good. Well, that's cool. Well, that's good. And I do know that about you. You find a way to turn it good. And what like have you just always been that way since the beginning? Can you remember? I should say this. Can you remember ever having to work on it?
I feel like I've always been working on everything. And I
Okay.
feel like because I just like I gotta, like whenever
Yeah.
I don't know, whenever I feel like there's nowhere to go or I'm stuck, it's like, well, I can't be stuck though. Or like I can't
Yeah.
just like just sit here, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like, for me it's like, the primary goal in life is to be happy. And if I ever get to where I can't be happy, well then I just don't accept that because I'm not gonna
Right.
live a life where I'm not happy. And so
Right.
I'm gonna
Really
do
good.
whatever it is I gotta do to to
Yeah.
get past that. And I think that in itself has just led me to I don't know, to being more not as negative about stuff. And I think my parents have also been a good example of what not to do. So I try to like learn from
Okay,
them.
that's interesting. Are your parents more fixed mindset? Where they
My
like
parents are crazy. Yeah, they're nuts, man. Yeah.
Yeah, you were mentioning your mom. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, don't get me started on all that.
Okay.
So they've been like I've learned a lot from them, they so
What
I'm
not
like,
to
yeah,
do.
you see where your dad's at, you see what got him there, don't do that. You see where your
Yeah.
mom's at, you see what got her there, also don't do that.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting. I feel the same way. A lot of don't do that energy. Yeah. That is interesting.
But
I'd be
I don't
curious.
think it was something that I think I was always born with that.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
kind of
think
see
I
that.
acquired that or worked on that. I think it just like I just happened to fall into that for whatever reason. Maybe it's just like a genetics thing, or maybe I read the right things when I was young.
Yeah. I
I
have a
don't.
theory on it. It's hard to tell that because it's very hard to track anybody from birth, but I do I think Carol Dweck is probably spending a lot of time on that. But it does seem I'd be curious if she's tracking the parents, the growth mindset kids versus the fixed mindset kids, to see what the parents' influences were or whatever. Like that would be so hard to track the Darren Brown moment that they, connected these two together. But I'd be curious about that. My current theory, that I don't know if it'll ever be able to be proved right or wrong. My current theory is that just like muscles, that I would guess that it is genetic. Like you could have growth mindset built in muscles, but that it's still something that can be grown to a degree, grown and built up. Like if you naturally have a good physique, you could build that up. If you don't naturally have a good physique, you can still get pretty far. At least that's what I'm telling myself. I've seen the evidences of that to some degree, but I'm telling myself that because naturally I'm absolutely glass half empty. So like genuinely have to work at like, nope, this is a positive. This is good. That also means good. And like just spending the time downloading like Ed Milet, where the mindset is fully like Gary Vee too. Like everything is positive. There's always a way around this. There's always good that can happen from this. And I really do think that you can rewire your internal language. I've done a lot of that in my life, and I would assume that this would just be another area to like basically teach yourself a language. Like, oh, I want to learn German. It's like teaching that brainwave internally, because it's like your brain could say that is impossible, and then it could start learning to say that is impossible yet. With typing, I've had to learn cop talk, allegedly speak scientific method talk, which I was definitely not. I did not start off talking like that. I started off when I first started typing going, this is who they are. This is what type they are. Obviously done. And that's how my language was. And I very much have had to learn the language of scientific method. So my brain is like, I'm connecting the same thing. I'm like, that is also what I should be able to do with growth mindset, is learn that more and more and more over time. That's my guess.
Yeah, it feels like it's something that you can learn, because I feel like, well, at least with me, I feel like I've just gotten more positive and optimistic as I've gotten older. When I was younger, I wasn't really like that. I was very pessimistic. I always thought stuff was going to go wrong and blah, blah. I was still going to do my damnedest to make sure it didn't. But, I feel like as I've gotten older, it's just been like, yeah, actually, everything's all right, actually, actually, a lot of the stuff that you're scared of, like, I mean, how often does it really happen, though,
Right.
And can you also recognize that, every time that something bad does happen, you're more likely to remember that than all the millions of times where nothing happens.
Yes.
So those stick out to you, and you think that's all that what happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it feels like it is something that you can learn. And I think like a lot of that positivity and a lot of that, like, things being okay, I think is rooted in a lot of philosophies that already exist, right? Like Eastern philosophies, like Buddhism and things like that.
Buddhism.
I think so. Yeah, I think it can be learned, but I think like the propensity to go for that maybe is something that it's kind of built in.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so too.
Know.
I definitely see people like you where, like, just like what you're saying too. They're like, I don't know how I started talking like this. Like, I just always had this. And then they have the same disposition as you, is like, it's going to be okay. Like, it's going to be okay. And they generally do that in every area of their life. They come into conflict and they find their way around the conflict. They don't find themselves trapped in corners as much. So, yeah.
I think it maybe what helps too is like starting off with a win as well, having a win early on that you can kind of like, if you have a point in your life where you felt like you were like, there's no way I'm gonna get past this, and you get past it and you're like, okay, why don't I remember that? And then the next time something comes up where I feel like there's no way, I'd be like, well, what about that time though?
Like, that's so good. Right. Yes.
So you get the ball rolling, but maybe some people never get the ball rolling. They just get the shit kicked out of them a bunch. and they never
I
even had a
100%,
shot at
yeah.
these kind of, you know.
Sorry, I totally interrupted you. I 100% agree. Yes.
Mhm.
And I would say that's I think that's related to expectation. So if somebody's expectations are higher than their ability to match their expectations, it instantly produces defeat, and then
Mhm.
it can hit their hippocampus. And then once that's happening, it's now, I knew it, I tried, I can't. And largely that's what you will see as the beginning stages of depression. And that's how, from what I'm seeing, I'm doing a lot of understanding on depression, and the what seems to start that train is getting themselves into a position where um, they are continuously getting defeated and not creating wins. And a large portion of that is that the expectations are too high. And interestingly enough, it's not get better, do better, because now you're drained and you're exhausted and you're trying to climb up and you're getting even more drained and exhausted. The in my opinion, the right answer is to lower the expectations as low as you possibly can, so that you
Yeah,
can start.
chill, you know.
Right. It's not about that goal. It's about building back up the ability to believe in self-achieving goals. So you have to actually choose. It's positive that I just woke up today. It's
Mhm.
positive that I made it to work on time. And if that's too high, it's positive that I'm still here. It's positive, like choosing to create the expectations lower so that the mind can get into that mental workout, and then you can start slowly building up expectations. All right, I got to work on time. I when I got there, I did the 3 things I said I was going to do, and then I went home. And you're just like creating these little tiny wins, and also not making a drama about any of the failures. Therefore, your hippocampus doesn't get hit, because that's the main goal. So yeah, like the whole process of building that would be um, just a system with working with the mind muscle. So I would guess that if you conquered some major things early on, you just started learning how to do that mental workout early on, I would guess.
Yeah, totally. It's a confidence boost, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because, and for me, maybe it's just because I'm messy. I have to see myself actually succeed at something to think that I can succeed at it, which kind of
Me
sucks if
too.
you're trying to succeed at something new.
I
'Cause
know.
you know what I mean? But you can use that
Yes.
in mind, the pattern of like, there's other times where I thought I was completely fucked and I was actually okay. So
That's good. That's
yeah,
good. You can remember that. Yeah.
yeah.
That's so true.
Not easy though sometimes.
I don't know. I don't know if I can do it. I haven't done it before. It's like, I used the last pattern.
Yeah,
Done
totally.
something like this before. Oh, right.
Do you feel like OP's helped you with growth mindset? Or do you feel
Yeah.
like how monumental has figuring this stuff out like been for you, if you could even quantify that?
Yeah, it's uh it's back to seeing reality more clearly. Uh I don't even know how to describe that, because you can't even describe the brain chemicals of slowing down the mind and being able to see your own brain turning against you with the default wiring. Like,
Mm.
it's hard. It's absolutely hard to value that. Yeah, I have a hard time evaluating the value of
Do you remember like
that.
was there like a worst time? Was there like a point where you were like the deepest in the abyss that you had ever been in?
Oh yeah,
What was that like? And what was like where were you at kind of in your journey
death.
that you don't mind
There,
talking about?
there was there's a lot of there was some. I dealt with severe depression. So severe depression, um, and it it hit mostly right after I had a series, I should say. I had a series of hits. Um, Early on, I had a lot of optimism and a lot of positivity. I was all had I have a lot of different talents. So I was um, extremely optimistic of being able to do something on this planet. I had high art skills. I could sing. I could even dance. Not that that matters, but like I had a lot of like high skills. And then I was smart. I always dominated whatever class I was in. architecture, interior architecture, illustration, fashion, photography, like whatever it was, I was just able to dominate that thing. So I had a lot of optimism for being able to go into whatever it was and do well there. But my NIFI, I had early on decided that I wanted to be a mom of 4 kids, get married, have an amazing relationship, and that God would provide all the happy endings needed there. And
It's like a
then,
condition for happiness, sort of.
yes, exactly. And then it was like day after my my first marriage. It was like the day after I like saw who my husband was, and I was like, oh shit. Like it was just it was like day after the wedding. I was like, oh
Whoa.
no. Yeah, so weird. So weird with the mind. Like I couldn't see myself and I couldn't see him. We were just babies, we were just kids. And then I spent the next decade kind of traumatized in worldviews breaking down. Things that, I just assumed Disney movies were real, basically. Like that God had this happy ending. He was going to wrap it up in a bow, all the promises from the Bible that I have a good and perfect plan for you. I will not tempt you beyond what you can hold and sustain. Like all of these promises that I believed in wholeheartedly and like built my worldview on them were starting to massively crumble now that reality had caught up with my understanding of the Bible at the time.
Mhm.
And that was breaking a lot of is starting to crumble a lot of my internal wiring. So I started getting the hippocampus hits because of my first marriage. And then I had a lot of like just a lot of like growing up to do in that first marriage. So a lot of like hits of depression in that first marriage. And then I had a pretty intense miscarriage before I had Cody, and that was a world change where because I almost died in the operating room or whatever.
Whoa.
I was like, yeah, I was
Holy shit.
bleeding out. I was bleeding for days. This is such a crazy story, actually. I was bleeding for days, and that weekend I still photographed 2 weddings, 2 10-hour weddings, and I just had to keep.
Wow.
It was so insane. Yeah, I had to keep going to the bathroom all the time, and I had to get backup photographers that were my friends to back me up. But I fucking did it. So crazy. And most of the intense bleeding was happening at night. But anyways, TMI. I almost died, and then because I had to get a blood transfusion. It was like an emergency blood transfusion because I lost so much blood, and I almost didn't wake up from the DNC surgery that I had. And that was an event where I started realizing I don't ever want to have a job where if I'm sick or ill, I can't take a day off. Like this is so insane. So that was one of the things where I was like changing who I was, starting to build my FI, starting to get who I was. But then it was like the next few years, once you go through I don't know if I can call it like a near death experience. Once you start going through stuff like that, my FI started getting triggered where I was like, I don't want to do things on this planet that I regret. I don't want to live in decisions where I'm just only doing DE for others, because look at what that gets me. Like, this is so insane that you would like put yourself in a position where you're dying, but you better get that wedding photo. Like, it's so fucking nuts. And same thing with my marriage. There was a lot there that I'm like, what the hell did I sign myself up for? So that time period was a lot of like, what the fuck, and mind crumbling of my fake worldviews of I wanted to have 4 kids. I wanted to have an amazing husband. And it just was like, okay, none of that was actually real. That was all lies. And so that crumbled. And then once I started pursuing the truth of God and then starting to discover the op code, I think we've probably talked about this so many times, but when we started seeing the clustering of LGBTQ plus in the docs, where we started putting people together and started hearing, for the first time, you're getting out of your worldview as the all-encompassing truth, the way, the truth, the life, this path. That is when you start actually getting into somebody else's mind, because you're trying to hear who they are so you can type them, and they're telling you, I didn't want this, I don't want this. This is, you're not taught that in Sunday school. So that worldview breaking was another huge crumbling of of like, that was a worldview I held on to that is now no longer legit. So you're having to like piece back together of like, okay, so what is truth? What is true? What is morality? How do I go after morality? Where do I even begin for that? And then you just start seeking. But the problem is, after that breakage, so there's a lot of hope in Disney movies. There's a lot of hope in the someday. There's so much hope. And it's like, oh, well, someday, you know, gates of gold and streets of gold and heaven, right? There's a lot of positivity in that. There's a lot of hope in that. And I think that that's why the human brain comes up with that as an answer, because if you're in hell, there's got to be something that you can imagine your way out of that hell space. So losing that, like breaking down worldviews, breaking down God in my life, breaking down all of this stuff, it then I went through massive hippocampus hits where everything was scary to me. Everything was fearful. And then at the same time, Dave was going through his massive tidal wave. And so and everything, because we're opposites, he triggered me to the most EJ degree I've ever been triggered. And I just was so intensely depressed. I mean, you could check off every single depressed box for years. And it was just all in, like, I don't want to live. I don't want to get out of bed. I have no hope. I don't feel hope. I don't feel joy. Like every descriptor they give for, severe depression, chronic depression, like I just was like off the charts on all of them and just lived like that for a really long time. And then when we started discovering pieces and parts of the code, it was every single new piece was seen as a threat, because for Dave, it was like missing information. For me, it was a new way that he can see me as not good enough. Oh, that's why you do that crazy shit that all psycho EJs do. Like, that's what my brain was interpreting it into. Because in order to start seeing this stuff, you do have to go look at the crazy shit that your type is doing. And when you're in a bad space, all it does is add to the pile of, I knew it, I'm not enough, especially if you haven't figured out the wiring. And especially if your brain is not in a place where it's like, all of this is going to be okay. All of this is, you can growth mindset, you can build, you can chip away. Like, this just wasn't the space my brain was in. So for my deepest, darkest days, it was just 1,000%. The worst feeling of the world was numbness. Never, like, just absolutely not being able to enjoy anything anymore. I couldn't enjoy painting anymore. I couldn't enjoy photography. I couldn't enjoy anything. I could just stop caring. And it was definitely where you have to get to the place where you stop caring about the tidal wave. You have to start emotionally detaching from, oh no, here's that tidal wave again. Oh no, here's that rock bottom again. Oh no, this is the worst thing ever that I was feeling this high and happy, and now I'm feeling this low and the worst. It's absolutely being like, yep, there's another tidal wave. That's okay. And then that space that you're living in, once you're that low, it's I call that my the quicksand, but it feels like mud. It feels like you're in the middle of a mud pit at the bottom of the quicksand. You just have a straw where you can breathe, and that's where you're at. And from that place, the best thing that one can do for themselves, how I got out, and I'm thinking about doing a series about this thing. Like, I don't know what I'll call it, getting out of hell or something like that. I don't know. But the best thing that you can do from that space is, I would say, number one, stop lying to yourself. That would be the first place to start. Start allowing yourself to be extremely honest with yourself, where you're like catching yourself trying to smooth the edges on things. Therefore, you can deal with the information as it is, where you're just like, yeah, what? I had another day where I missed something, or I laid in bed all day, or I didn't show up. And like, you do end up having to get very settled with that hell space where you're just letting that space be okay. And then from that okayness and from that honesty, you like what I was saying before is you start setting expectations extremely low so you can get out of the mud pit. And the way that I visualize it is like you have these like shitty Jimmy rigged Batman grappling hooks that are really, you know, Jimmy rigged, and you're like trying to attempt to throw one to shore, and it's going to do absolutely nothing. It'll break, it'll not latch on, and it won't pull you out, but it's this small. It's like a teensy little pebble that is solid versus you're sinking. And it's stuff like, for some reason, my brain, and this is what it was, for some reason, my brain allows me to show up to events on time. Okay. Okay. Well, then what if I scheduled a phone call with someone? What if I just told my kid I would take him to the park? And that's what it was. Like, it was a lot of that. And I overworked that one for a really long time where I was like, okay, I can choose to do these things because I know the only problem is that my brain is having a hard time but like fulfilling promises to self. And at the time I was listening to a lot of Greg Plitt over and over and over and over again. Like I was studying brainwashing. How can I brainwash myself with someone like Greg Plitt's mentality, you know? And then later on, you know, after we discovered Ed Milet, that's the same, you know, like it's the same message. So he would be a good person to look at it too. But I was overworking Greg Plitt at the time, just a very extremely optimistic person who seemed to deal with, you know, struggles and demons and stuff. But attempting to work on the only problem, which was me. And I wasted a lot of years not really getting down to the bottom line of this is 100% about my brain wiring. And that's all it is. It's not personal. It doesn't mean you suck. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just a human. And I wasted a lot of years thinking that I was my functions. I am an EJ. I am TESC. It's like, no, that's not the you. That's the default wiring you were dealt with that you got to watch. You got to watch out for that shit. But that's not who you are. And I connected the two. And then therefore, when the wiring of my brain would fuck with me and interpret information incorrectly, I would take that as another excuse to put myself back into the sinking pit. So it was after the grappling hooks of you're just attempting to build some kind of structure, you're also having to consistently go back to the same conceptual thing, which is all of this is coming from my brain wiring thinks that the world is unfair, but that's only because my brain wiring is working on two firing functions and an animal last that I don't believe I can just do. So that's only what this is about. It's not because that guy, that girl, they, you, me, you, like, it's not any of that stuff. And that's back to, again, getting honest with your own self. So it's like, get honest with your own self, play the lower your expectations so you can start doing the 3 wheelbarrows a day kind of thing, like make it really small. And then after that, it is getting to the point where you can mentally start choosing one identity over the other. And that's where you do have to start making a choice where you're like, I'm going to consciously choose the warrior side of my brain instead of the feel sorry for myself side of my brain. But again, you're not going to believe yourself if you don't have any traction. And the traction has to come from met expectations consistently. So make your expectations.
No. Am I gone or is she gone? I don't know. Can somebody type something in the chat to let me know I'm still connected to the internet, please? Wait, I can check that myself. 1 second. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh, you're back. Okay. I was like, oh man, the power went out or the electricity.
No, I think what was it? Because yeah, we're good. Okay. Well, hi, we're back.
Yeah, I
So
wasn't sure if
narrowing
it
all
was
that down. Sorry.
you or me, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Missing
All right.
information.
Yeah, so we were talking about the pit, the depression pit, and it seems like
Yes.
a lot of the depression pit comes from you not being kind of in sync with reality, kind of lying to yourself.
Right.
And the way to get out of it was you had to do very, very small, lowered expectations, and then also, you know, trying to see things and for what they are, and not trying to lie to yourself and cover things up.
Right. Right. That's really
Yeah,
good. And that's
that's
all it is. Like it is a series of feeling stuck for many years because you're in a position that feels unfair. The world feels unfair, but it's largely owning the hell out of your own math, owning the hell out of how long it is going to take to get your wiring back up to confident, and then also finding ways to use your demons. Like for me, if I am not producing something, I feel stuck. And last. If I'm not producing something, I feel stuck, and therefore the world, then my brain will start looking for problems and it will find it. It is that simple.
Uh-oh, did it happen again? Shan, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Oh no.
Let me check my internet.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Let me check. Yeah, my internet's fine.
Okay. Cool. All right. All right. Yeah, I don't know if it's mine or yours, but yeah, having some problems. But hopefully, yeah, they'll get better here in a bit. It's super trouble when you're OE and something throws you off of what you're saying, because you're like, what the hell was I talking about
Oh
for the
my
last hour? No idea.
God. Yes. Oh my God.
Um,
Yeah, it's probably me. If we're allowed to use our NI, it's probably me to some degree since I had problems yesterday. So I'm going to use my NI and say it's probably my fault. Yeah,
Okay.
but for some reason it's still working. Anyway.
Okay. So yeah, we were on the part about using your demons and that how helpful that. It's weird how like even using it like a little bit, it like kind of does so much, and you're a bit surprised, and then you forget about it because you're feminine demon and I,
Oh my
and then it
God.
keeps surprising you, and then
That was, yeah, like I will say I feel really, so I don't want to say I feel bad, but like I watched Cody with his feminine NI and forgetting the patterns. I'm like, okay, yeah, I absolutely, that would be hard. At least you could memorize, like, I don't know, you could use time. That's one you could use. Time. Like track time, set alarms. Seems like the masculine sensors can use that time thing.
I write down my NI stuff because I'm tired of like thinking like, wow, that's a great thought, and then a month later I'm like, wow, it's a great thought. Wait, that sounds familiar. Oh wait, I thought of this already. Shit, you know. So,
Isn't that like mind numbing where you're like, oh
yeah.
my God? Yeah.
I literally start every time I have like something that's like, oh, that I feel like I've gained some kind of understanding here. Then I type it in this thing, and then I go over it every month. That's my way of dealing with it.
But see, like that's where the like patience with the, oh my God, we're here again. It's like that's where that comes in. And then the growth mindset of being like, it's fine. Like it's the worst thing ever. And it's like, shut up. No, it's not. Who cares? I forgot again. Whatever. And like you were saying earlier, it's like, cool, something new to work on, you know?
It's like, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Who cares? Just fix it. You know, do
it's
whatever.
life.
Yeah.
What else are you gonna do today? You know?
What else?
That's
Yeah.
really...
What else are you here to do? Yeah, totally.
So good. Did you have any like hard questions that you're scared to ask me? Because
That was a hard question. I literally asked you like, what's the most horrible deep down thing ever? And after I asked him, like, Dave, why did you just ask
you asked a personal
me? Yeah, I don't think
question.
it gets more personal than what just happened there. And
That's true. I definitely TMI'd the hell out of that. Yeah,
but no,
and
I'm
hopefully
glad you were willing to talk about it, and I always like hearing about that sort of thing because I feel like there's so much to learn from that, and it can be really inspiring for other people who feel like they're in a similar situation, or they're just really out of their luck and they feel like, oh, I'm screwed.
That's why I talk about it. It's one of it's a question we get the most of, like, okay, now that I see this shit, how the hell do I get out of this? So absolutely, I 100%. It's like you get on so many videos and so many interviews and you're like realizing like, oh, other people have gone through are going through right now what I have gone through before. So what is the point of this whole thing? Oh, this is your function. This is your function. Okay, great. So when that's all settled and, you know, you panicked for an entire year, then you finally saw your type and you settled that. Now it's dealing with the real problem, which is you're at the bottom of a pit. And that's mostly what I feel like people actually want to talk about. You know, I'm in pain. Can we talk about that? I kind of hide that, but I'm really hurting. You know, I'm having a hard month, or I'm having a hard day, or I really haven't figured out my functions, you know? Yeah.
So this is going to sound like a really silly IP question, but do you think everyone is hurting? Do you think everyone's just like,
yes,
kind of at their
100%.
limit, or is it just some of us, or is it 60%, or is it?
I think there are a few people, the percentage is low, that are happy-go-lucky all the time. And I would say that's probably not the norm. I would say to some degree. And again, it's every person's personal perspective because it's their own hell. So they're not necessarily comparing their owie versus somebody else's owie. They're just in their own matrix pod and they're like, for me, this is the hardest thing ever. But yeah, 100%. I think everyone goes around and they talk about the safe shit. And then when no one's looking, they go into their pain and they go into their insecurities and they go into their doubts about themselves, or they go into their fears and they go into their anxieties. And then they wrap it up and they put on a brave face. And when they're in public, they just keep that shit to themselves all the time because it, animalistically, it sends a message to the tribe. This one is about ready to erupt, so get away from it. And it's not, there's no devious behavior there. It's just an animalistic reaction that is built into the human wiring to protect itself when someone is having a tidal wave or having an eruption. Animals do this. And it's just and I know I say this all the time, but a survival mechanism. So what we are doing as a species that is kind of exciting is that now that you have like social media, where there's a lot of bad that comes with social media, blah, blah, blah. The good that comes with social media is that you started seeing a revolution of kids crying in their bedrooms. So now it's becoming the norm to talk about the bad day. It's becoming the norm to talk about, I'm putting on this face, but actually I have this disorder or I have this disease or whatever. And I want to share, I want to talk this out. I want to share my pain. And I think a lot of people are making that the norm. And I would say over the next 20 years, because a lot of the older generation are like, what are you guys doing? You know, keep that to yourselves. I don't think that's going to be the norm. I think it's going to get more and more and more, where people are sharing their darkness, and that will become the new norm. That if you're not sharing your darkness, I think that will be, more seen as, if I can't be honest around you, I don't want to keep you around. I want to have my buddies where we can be honest with each other. And I think that that's what, like, if anything is addicting about op, that would be the thing that's addicting about op. I think for people, when they can join a Discord or they can join a group, this is not about typing. It's not about typing. It's not about whether Shan and Dave are accurate or not. Like, oh my God, are you seriously still stuck on that? This is about groups of people being able to come to share. I feel really insecure today. I feel really bad about my demon FE or my demon FI or my demon whatever. Like, I'm feeling really insecure about that. I'm feeling like I can't manage watching my family and they're just stuck in their saviors. And this is hard for me to process this part of reality. Let me connect to a whole group of people that all share in the same reality and understanding as me. That's what this is really about. It's a giant group therapy, you know.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Why people actually stick around, you know.
It's like such a cure for the IP struggle, at least for me, because it feels like, you know, like if you see that, really see the tribe and see how much is like everyone's hurting and suffering and dealing with stuff, you don't really feel the need to do the significance quest, because you're like, oh wait, wow, like why am I trying to be up here when we're all like, this is horrible? Why am I trying to, you know, be better than everyone else when like we're all kind of, because you only do that out of insecurities on your own self, I think, right?
If you don't, you're gonna get hated.
If I'm not up here, then I'm not here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe that doesn't make sense, but there's
No,
a
it totally
significant
does.
thing where it's like the tribes is gonna blah if I'm not way the fuck up here for some reason. But if you see the
Yeah.
tribes all like they're struggling just as much as you are, then you don't really feel the need to try to compare and try to be way up here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see
Yeah.
everyone else. But I think as an IP, you're not putting in the time, right? So you don't see other people's darkness, which is something I've really struggled with for a long time. Is I just don't see other people's. Everyone seems like they're just fine, which is not the
Oh,
case. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Which
Yeah.
makes you
Yeah.
feel very alone and very and then that makes you struggle more to be up here because everyone else seems to be up here.
Gosh,
So I got to
right.
be too.
So I would guess that all the lead TIs would naturally struggle with that, then feeling like everybody is fine. Is that kind of a common feeling? So if you're having bad emotions, keep that to yourselves. Is that kind of the natural feeling?
I don't know if I wouldn't necessarily say it's a keep it to yourself sort of thing. I would
Okay.
say it's more of like, um, I've there's something wrong with me, and then I got to fix that because everyone else seems to be okay, and I don't want to be the one
Yeah.
that's out. I don't want to be the one that's cast out of the whole group because I'm
God.
weird. Everyone else is cool, me not so cool. So I gotta. So there's a crazy reaction or response to that to balance things out, which ends up making you look like this IP asshole that's trying to be better than everyone. When you're not, you're actually just trying to make things settle to where you're like not being left behind. You know what I mean?
That
But I
makes so
wouldn't
much
say that
sense.
that's linked to not showing. I don't feel a sort of vulnerability by just saying like I feel bad or I'm sad or whatever. That doesn't really bother me. Now, admitting that I'm wrong, that's tough. But
That's so interesting.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't want to see the tribe seeing me wrong because then it's like, well, what else? Then what do I offer? You know what I mean? Like, what do I have?
that's so interesting. I totally understand that from a typist. I know that function. I just absolutely forget because I don't think like that. So I just absolutely forget. I'm like, that is what TI is doing. Okay, remember that. And like, I can't remember.
You'll have to validate that as well because that's like what's going on with me, and I'm assuming because it's going on with me that other TIs are going through that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
assuming it's probably the case
I
with
hear
you.
that. I hear that from every single
You
TI,
do.
and I just
Okay.
yeah, I
Okay.
just forget it because my brain wiring is also in its own matrix goo all day.
Mhm.
Like when I go into typing, I like turn on all my functions and I have to wake up for a while. I'm like, well, there's that TI thing again. I I am extremely fluent in TI, but I don't it's like I'm extremely fluent in hearing TI. But speaking TI, I have like kindergarten abilities to be able to be like, okay, so if I'm TI, I'm doing this. I don't ever believe it when I'm saying it because I'm like, that can't be what they're mad about or frustrated by it. Can't be
That's how
that.
I feel about FI. Yeah, I just like I guess I get it on paper, but
That
what's the experience of that? That I don't like. I can't
right.
really do.
Right. It is still fascinating to me that to this day whenever I hear what the experience is. So
Mhm.
I like gobble it up when I'm hearing it. And then always my conscious attempt is to turn it around and see how I'm doing that in my own way
Right. Yeah.
to
Makes sense.
grow.
Mhm.
Um, that's just a practice that I've had since the beginning.
Yeah. It just all seems like a missing information game. Like
Yeah,
if I'm DI, then the missing information's with the tribe. It's
yeah,
reverse. It's your DI that's the missing. It just seems like
yeah.
we just
I
don't.
can't see myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave talks about it like the DEs are um, they're driving, but they can only see the hood of their car,
Mhm.
and then beyond they can see the hood of their car and other cars, but they can't see themselves driving. Like they can't
Like
see
they
from first
they
perspective.
know that they're driving, but they're not exactly sure where they're trying to get. I guess right.
I don't even know if they know that they're driving because that's part of the
Ah,
problem is they can't
right.
see themselves in equations. Like
Mm.
that's absolute straight missing information is the dominoes that I did that led up to this action. And I
Mm.
think that's everyone to some degree, but I think the DEs have like straight up missing information there
Yeah.
because they use the word you in arguments a lot. Well, you said and you did and you told me to, and like it's like whoa, 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 no, you actually did that thing. Like, oh nope, I only did it because you made me. Like very
Oh
weird.
yeah.
They can't see self.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, really good.
Cool. Well, it's weird is I think we actually got through pretty much all my questions without me having to ask them. Except for one.
Okay.
So the most serious question on here.
Uh-oh.
So prepare yourself.
Is this going to be one of those 3 truths questions?
It's going to be tough. So just emotionally prepare yourself. I'll give you a second.
Okay.
What is your last function spirit animal?
Oh my fucking God. I do know this.
Do you really? Oh, well.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay. This is embarrassing. And I wish I could show you a picture of it.
Mm-hmm.
But oh my God, this is so embarrassing. Okay. Okay. Let me stop laughing so I can say
Why is it
it.
embarrassing?
Like back in the day when I was really trying to build understanding of my animals, I had I spent hours and hours and hours scouring through illustrations on Pinterest to try and find the perfect SFNF that represented my play, my consume, my sleep, and my blast.
Okay.
So I actually did, my whatever it was. Maybe it was only 100 hours, but it was a lot of hours.
Cool.
And yeah. And it's a big, giant female, buffed out minotaur. Is that the word?
Is that the one that's like half bull?
Half bull.
Or
So it just looks like one of those way buffed out, very masculine, but still a female. And it's a minotaur with a bull head, and then a human. The rest of it is human. So yeah, I have this image that I think it's even saved in my Pinterest board somewhere. But that's how I see it. That's my spirit animal of my last.
Okay. That's how you see the FI. Huh?
Oh, you're saying last function. That's my
function.
blast. That's my blast.
Okay.
That's what my blast is. My FI. Oh, and a spirit animal of my FI. I don't know. Whenever it comes out, it has this baby voice that's rather funny. Yeah, I talk like a little kid when I do it. So how would I describe that animal wise? It feels like, I don't know if a sloth would be a good thing for it. Either maybe a baby sloth.
Okay.
Or a sugar. What are those? Sugar gliders.
Sugar glider things.
Something small and something with an attitude. Like a I don't even know the Pikachu animals, but
Pikachu, yeah, okay.
Whatever one that looks really cute and really furry and really soft, and then when it does its thing, it's exploding and firing and pissed off and whatever Pikachu that is, that's the one. So something that looks really
small, cute, but with an attitude, but with DI, I guess.
Like a terrifying demon, devil, crazy. Yeah, that. Okay. Something fiery. Something like that. Yeah.
Oh, kind of the voice matches a little bit. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I used to relate back in the day to some of the the female chipmunk. They Chip and Dale, the chipmunk Disney cartoons.
Yeah,
I think I used to resonate with some of the female. Oh, I know. There's a good one. The squirrel in Sword in the Stone. The female squirrel in Sword in the Stone. Do you remember that one?
That sounds really familiar. I'm gonna just.
This is super old school. I was born in 81, so this is old school. But yeah, there's Sword in the Stone, and they had the wizard, and then the boy, and then the wizard turned the boy into a squirrel. And then there was a female squirrel that fell in love with him as a squirrel. And I very much resonate. My FI very much resonates with that little female squirrel that was like, I love you. And then she got all extremely hurt when she found out he was a boy and not a squirrel. There you go. There it is. I got it.
Nice. Okay.
That took some SE.
Hey, it worked out. Yeah.
Some visual SE.
I'm always surprised how people were able to answer that. I feel like if you just threw that one at me, I'd be like, man, I have no idea
what's your spirit animal?
So I may just come up with it. Well, this is on stream actually. I say I'm surprised, but somehow I came up with it as well. But I said a rabbit, like a bunny.
A bunny rabbit?
Yeah, just because like feminine FE feels very skittish and very like very non-threatening and very like vulnerable, I guess.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
The feminine F feels vulnerable.
Mhm.
Are you quick to tears? Are you quick to cry? Does it
Um,
wash?
I think like these days, yeah, I didn't used to be, but like I'm quick to like a little bit, you know,
Yeah.
a little bit comes out, you know, if you're watching, you'll notice it.
Yeah.
Sometimes when there's like a dog involved, a lot of times
Oh my God.
that'll get me.
Okay.
Like somebody being reunited with their dog, like
Oh,
that'll get me every time.
do you ever like I can pour out my eyes. Do you ever pour out your eyes, or is it just like a
No,
tear?
I wish I
Okay.
did, but I'm not there yet. But
Okay.
I feel like I have potential for that.
I
I'm hoping one
love
day
the way you worded that. I'll get there someday.
I'll get there. Yeah, I think it's good. I
It
think it's
is
good.
good. It is
Yeah,
good. It is good.
you
You're
know,
right. You're right.
so I'm hoping for it. I'd be so proud of myself. I'd be like, look at me cry over this thing that doesn't need to be cried about.
That's good. You could just get loaded up. Like, if I don't know if you're on TikTok, but you could get loaded up. Like, tell the TikTok algorithm you just want to see reunited dog after reunited dog after reunited dog. So you just get loaded up and loaded up and loaded up until you're like, okay.
Have a crying day. That would,
Yeah.
See how much I can take.
Right. I know. I
It took
don't recommend it.
67 TikTok videos this time. Okay, it's a new
Yes.
record for me.
Make it a TI game.
Yeah,
I did it.
totally.
I cry more than all of you.
Yeah, significance. Weird flex, but okay.
And I conquered that one too.
Totally.
So good, buddy. Really, really good. Well, cool. Do you have any more questions before we go?
Actually, I was going to ask the chat just now
Oh, that's
if
a great idea.
they
Yes.
have any questions. I don't know if people have been asking questions because I haven't actually been looking.
Let
And
me
oddly
check.
enough, everyone's showing up now, so we have like a ton of viewers now. Well, you all missed out. You should have been here like 2 hours ago, or hour 45 minutes ago.
Let's
But you can
see.
watch the replay. It'll be up.
On the replay.
So yeah, I'm just scanning the comments. Maybe there's one.
M2. I don't know. I'm not seeing anything. If you guys have a comment, maybe you can just do a new one at the bottom.
Yeah, it might be easier because if I don't see a question mark, I probably won't know that it's a.
Yeah. By the way, hi everybody. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, I don't see any. Dave said superpower movie villain.
Well,
That's cool.
all right then. I guess if the tribe's cool, then.
Oh, chat is delayed.
Oh, is it? How much is it delayed by, Benjamin? Do you know? That's probably going to be delayed too. It'll be 5 minutes later. We'll hear that.
Send it out to the universe. How much is it delayed by? And he's like 10 minutes later. Benjamin, I asked you a question. Yeah. Well, let's see. This much.
Okay, this much. Okay, well.
A minute or two.
All right, well,
it doesn't look like anybody has any questions. If you have any questions, we could just do this again sometime. How about that? There you go.
That would be pretty cool.
Oh, here's one. Do masculine TE immovable reasons feel real like masculine TI immovable reasons? Or do the reasons feel fake for masculine TE too? Oh, I definitely think, hi, Sammy. I definitely think before I knew about what TE was, they felt 100% real. They were like the realest thing ever, and that's back to like the human sees their functions as very real and their perception of self and their intentions as very real. And it wasn't until I started being able to track, so this would be part of the like getting out of hell. It wasn't until I started seeing people of my type and then really diving into the bad and the good of that function that I started seeing in every single other person what TE was really doing. And I saw how much of a shotgun blast of liar. I started calling it liar reasons, where they were just throwing out shit, but really it was to protect the FI. I didn't start seeing that until, couple of years ago, a few years ago or whatever. I didn't start seeing that. Now I see it as lies, but it's very hard to it's a constant battle to recognize that. So that's what I see. How about you, Dave? You see that TI immovable reasons as fake, or do they feel real for you?
Yeah, they feel pretty real. As you probably would have guessed. You know what feels fake is actually feeling. Sometimes I'll get a feeling and be like, no, I really feel that way. I'm not sure. Which also sounds kind of weird, like now that I say it. But that's definitely happened one time where I've like felt really bad about something that happened to somebody, and it felt like I don't usually feel that bad when something like that happens. And so I felt almost teared up a little bit. I'm like, what are you being dramatic for? You don't really feel that way.
Oh,
So I definitely had that, but not with reason so much.
I would say that's actually good, but then also still give yourself permission to feel. But I think it's
this thing I want it to be real. I don't want it to be fake,
Yeah,
like,
right.
I want to be more in the feelings thing, but sometimes it comes with like, Dave, you're not that. You're not that.
Are you sure? Yeah. It's healthy to not dramatize, but it's good to be like, hold on, take a pause here and cry about it. But I guarantee you're doing that just fine. It seems like you do that in a lot of areas in your life. Benjamin's question is really good. Can we try and hit this one? How do you stop projecting your demons on what you idealize?
I'm not sure I understand the question completely. I understand stop projecting your demons. But
right. I bet you there's a sensory example there that he's categorizing that I don't know if I'm going to be able to hit exactly what he means by that.
Do you tend to project more on something on what you idealize? So
okay, so I'm going to take this from a decider perspective and see if this hits a decider's perspective. So a lot of times, if you are a decider, you are idealizing a relationship, let's say. I'm just going to create that as an example because see if I can connect this. If you idealize something, anything, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a religion, whether it's a job opportunity. So let's throw some SE examples in there. Then you are attached to the outcome. So I would say that that's the bottom line, is that you are attached to an outcome because you idealize that thing. Therefore, automatically, you are going to have a very difficult time seeing reality because your brain automatically does not want to see reality because it wants an outcome. If it wants something, then it won't be open. It's concluding. It's deciding and it's concluding. It's weird. Like a lot of us are using our introverted functions to get our perspective in our way, even though we'll be whatever saviors. And that the second you are attached to that outcome, you will, anytime information from reality comes in, you are going to interpret it in a way that has to be blamed or projecting your demons onto that thing. You're going to automatically assign this is the most horrible thing in the world because my demons. And that's what the brain automatically fills in the gaps with. It can't possibly be, you're just not open. You're not open. You're not at peace. You're not settled. And therefore, you are automatically compromised at interpreting reality into whatever story you have playing inside your mind. And this is what we were talking about earlier in the talk where, for me, where I started breaking down my worldviews and then going into a deep depression was when Christianity started breaking down for me, and my first marriage started breaking down for me. That was when I was like, what? Because you are used to, in your mind, being able to go all in and trust in your perspective and your ideals. And once those crack, even a teeny bit, stuff starts traumatizing you because now you feel like you have zero footing. And if you have zero footing in everything that you've trusted before now, how the hell do you build that back up? How the hell do you build back up a worldview that accepts staying in limbo for a while before you have all of the information in? And also, how do you train your brain to stop being in need of something? Like, that's near impossible. It's very difficult, but you have to if you don't want to live in confusion. You have to be able to train your brain to slow down from wanting an outcome. And I would say the first place to start is to track and look pause, take a breath, and ask yourself, what is it that you are wanting from this? What is it that you are really, really wanting? And that goes back to what I was talking about, my deep depression. You have to get in the practice of really learning how to not lie to yourself. You have to get into the practice of being very honest with yourself. And that's a part of the practice, is going, actually, I really want this outcome. And I believe if I don't get this outcome, really bad things are going to happen. And I am believing that, and I'm not even looking at that, but I'm believing that so wholeheartedly that I put that into an unconscious drawer. And then I go back to projection, fear, blame, anxiety, and I go distract myself with all the shit over here, because I won't just go to the drawer, pull out the need and the outcome dependent thing and stare at it and go, do I really fucking care? I just don't care. Because back in the day, the worst thing ever for me was like, oh, you don't get a divorce. You don't lose God. Like, those were the greatest things ever. That was like, you're going to die. Like, it's just like what the brain fills in the gaps, because you're never just going after being honest with yourself. It fills in with just the most crazy ass shit. And when you could just calmly be at peace and also not dramatize the reality of the information, and you could just see it and settle with it, it then allows you to go backwards and watch yourself going, oh my God, I was jumping off bridges because I was so scared to do my demons. And it was very small. A lot of times you'll see it's super small. Like, what is it that I was avoiding doing? Because I was afraid of this random outcome over here, which is not even a big deal when I actually look at it. So I do think it's looking at that outcome that you are demanding from reality, and being very honest with self, and being very settled with, it's okay if it doesn't go well. The world will not end. It's okay. Then you can be patient with your own self. You can be honest with your own self. You can go back into your own life and be like, it's okay. I actually suck at that thing, and the world's not going to kill me off. You get where you can start laughing at, like, what the hell did I just create? And then you start practicing not dramatizing the need energy. You like learn to let go of that, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense.
Benjamin, are you satisfied by that answer? I hope so.
5 minutes later, he'll have a follow-up.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Yeah. Maybe we can do.
So how are you, Shan? Could you handle a few more, or
yeah. I'm doing good.
Okay. All right. Let's do
what about this one? What's the value of having a partner or friend that's your opposite function as a savior versus having one in a different axis? This is a great question to ask, because I think both you and I have really good perspectives of this, because you and Victoria are very similar, right?
Oh yeah. Okay.
And Dave and I are very opposite. If I would say for me, and I would say, like, absolutely have a friend. If it's not your partner, have a friend, have somebody in your life where they're not jumping off the same cliff as you. I do see when, like, our editor and Dave, they're both IJs, they're both consume last, and they both spin on the same exact problems. It's fascinating how very alike functions really are. Like, okay, you're just dealing with the human needs of functions, and they spin on the exact same struggles, and therefore it just takes longer, and they're not really getting themselves out of certain problems, where, like, it feels like the biggest one, and this does feel like the biggest one. It feels like the biggest one is decider versus observer. So if you have a partner that happens to be a decider and you're a decider, get a friend that's an observer. Like, because I think shit in the decider realm is real, and Dave can't relate. On the other side, the decider friends in my life instantly can resonate, instantly can relate, instantly have empathy. So you feel heard and you connect in that way. So, like, positive and negative of, like, feels like the opposite. You can get out of the drama of it, and you can solve the problem faster with having opposite. But sometimes you just need fucking somebody to be like, oh, I feel you. I totally know what you're going through. I go through the same thing. I feel that same way. And I also, resonate with that. What do you think about that, Dave? I know you have some experience with that as well.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, my partner is TINE. So we're both IPs. And yeah, it's
And she's
working out.
also a sweetheart. So
She's also amazing.
that's, yeah, definitely.
Which helps, you know. But yeah, so we're on a different axis. So she's an ESI and I'm SCNI. The value in that, I think the value in that really opens up your mind as to like, wow, people really do see things way differently than you do. And I think we'd all be freaked out if we had to actually live in somebody else's brain for one day, if we could actually experience reality.
That is so true.
This is way different than I thought it would be.
I've thought about that. Yeah, you're so right.
And I think when you usually have deep discussions with, you know, the person that you're close to, you really realize like how differently you kind of see things. And so I think it definitely broadens your horizons and helps you to kind of like, and for me as an IP, it really helps to see other people's perspectives and kind of, you know, where the people are coming from and just how different other people can be and stuff. And so,
right.
And it helps you, kind of breaks you out from having just your own perspective as the perspective, you know, when you really know how different things are with everyone else, then it kind of really helps you not be so sure of your perspective and realize that, yeah, everyone's got a different brain. Everyone's got a different reality. Everyone's got a different, you know, narrative. Everything's different.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I guess that's the value from that.
For sure. For sure. Let me see if I can skim through some of these. Let me just like read through them really quick.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, let me just read a couple of them really quickly. Have you been able to allow the demon FI to feel more? And what are you doing to allow yourself to feel it? Any system built up for yourself to let the FI do its thing? Yes, I have something on that. There's a lot of motivational stories about growth, but in your experience, can people ever work to be as good at their demons as people who that have a natural tendency to do? Yes, let me talk about that. Having demons is dumb. Okay. Also, how do you not get triggered by observers not getting your totally real decider issue? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's hit the first one. Let's hit these three and then we could be done from here.
Okay.
All right. So have you been able to allow the demon FI to feel more, and what are you doing to allow yourself to feel it? Oh, absolutely. And I think consciousness has been the biggest thing. And then it's not just consciousness of when I'm feeling it. It's also consciousness of watching the thinker side tell it to go away. So like the feeling side will come up. It comes up all the time, comes up, you know, probably, I don't know if it's as often, but it's coming up often where there's an emotional hit, but the being very conscious of the savior thinking of being like, not the right time. I don't have time for that. And what it's avoiding is the pit. It is avoiding that giant sand pit, mud pit of sinking. If I fall down into those emotions, I don't make it out. And that's what the thinker is so afraid of. It's, I don't have time for that. I got to get back to work, as well as I'm terrified of that level of pain. So like getting very conscious helps, because you're now very aware of what the wiring is doing by default, what it's going to automatically do. And now comes in ... the pain equation, where you're like, by the way, you either do it now or you do it later. So it's consciousness of what the wiring is doing, and then consciousness of the pain equation of if you deal with it now, you don't get massive pain later. So you're like using intuition to kind of connect to this doesn't just, it's not just in the moment. This doesn't go away. It creates a tidal wave. It creates an avalanche later. So then you can kind of get on board with why you would need to even go about creating the process of a crying situation. And then the steps that you would start building for your own self would be listening more to what your emotions are saying. And I think the more that you can listen to and stare at, and again, be honest with the emotions that are coming up, it does spark the sadness. It will spark that pain, because you will be listening to the victim energy. You'll be listening to the I'm not enough energy. Maybe I'm hated energy, and you really staring at it and listening to it. It does start arising the emotions to be listened to. And some practical ST ways that I have done it. First of all, just letting it be over the years, getting stoic about it, where you're just like, I don't even care. I am going to lose it and cry right now. I've had to get really comfortable with that and not be embarrassed by it. It's very difficult for me to do it on video, and I just hate it. And sometimes the comments piss me off because you're like, dude, stop being a thinker. Let me cry. It's sad. Like, get the fuck off me. But there are areas in my life that I went to practice just sharing that with myself. Like I will use things like TikTok where I'm like clicking on things specifically to go see what I get emotionally wrapped up into. And for mine, it's always very much a victim energy. When someone is hurt, when someone is, killed, hurt, loss, all of those things are extremely emotional for me. And then like going through it again and again, because TikTok then starts showing you every single thing that you're like, oh my God, this is really going on out there. This is the perspective of the tribe, like you're saying, like seeing the effie of what everyone else is feeling. For me, I feel it for my own self. When I see somebody else in pain, I then feel that my own self as if I'm going through it, or how I would, like it's a very weird feeling. Like I feel what that would feel like for myself. But it's still just a practice to get in that space where you're like, I'm just going to let myself cry today. I'm going to let myself go all in on that today. But it's not something that happens overnight. It is not. You would have to give it a space. And I went so long with the consciousness part where I knew what was happening, but I kept letting the pain equation smack me in the ass. So I was just like all in on, I know what's going on, and I refuse to care about that this is going to cause me problems in the future. So it's like I had to get done with that game. And then I was like, okay, desperate. I'm like, what the fuck do I got to use? I don't know, TikTok there, that'll help. Like you start actually connecting that this is causing you more problems later by not crying more. And that's when you magically find the ways to cry, when you have connected that I have all these emotions in me. They are bottled up and I am not really genuinely letting them out, but they're in there and they come out once a month, once every 3 months, whatever it is for you. Then you get desperate. For me, practical ST was that TikTok really helped me because you're starting to get a feed of sort of the same types of categories again and again and again. And then just sitting there bawling, looking at every hurt person in Ukraine. Like it really, like don't search Ukraine, or Syria or anything like that if you're not ready to go down for a couple of hours. So stuff like that. Great. Do you have anything to say on that one before I move on to the next one?
I don't know nothing about that FI thing, but I agree with everything you said.
I wash my hands of this. Oh, that's super great. Okay, what's the next one? There's a lot of emotional story. But in your experience, can people ever work to be as good at their demons as people that have a natural tendency to do so? I would say for the majority, I would say no. But there are absolutely some exceptions, like David Goggins and Jocko, and I'm sure they're just, Byron Katie, where you're just like, oh my God, they are blowing the people out of the water that have these as saviors. It's not that they're like, yeah, I mean, sure, if you followed them around, you'd be like, okay, this person's still doing FE all goddamn day, or this person's still doing SE all goddamn day. Like, but the ownership of their demon functions, like you've never seen any human be able to manage it. Like David Goggins and him talking about, you own the hell out of your NIFI and you prepare and you emotionally prepare the night before. And same thing with Jocko. Like you own your discipline, you do your discipline, you be consistent, you be repetitive, you be routine, because that's what creates freedom. You're like, okay, not even OIs are that aware of how to be that controlled and that consistent. So I do absolutely think that there are exceptions. I think it's 1,000% possible for all of us, which is what I choose to believe in. And then therefore it gives me hope. But it's just hard. TE. There you go. TE. It is just hard to do. It is hard to do. It is 1,000% possible. It just takes time, patience, time, a lot of patience for self, a lot of love for the self, and a lot of awareness of your wiring, consciousness of your wiring, and separating self from your wiring. That's what I would say. Cool.
Great.
What's our last
All
one?
right. So last one we're gonna take.
How do you not get
is-
triggered?
Yeah, how do you not get triggered by observers?
I would 1000% say you can't not get triggered. I would say what helped me was to stop trying to get triggered, because that is a chemical reaction in the brain. Dave will always be weirded out by, what was it? Antlers. Like trying to think of the weirdest one out of all the things he's told me. Or you're like, what? You know? And I will always be triggered by my default wiring of, you know, the EJ shit. I'm offended. What do you mean by that? That you are being mean to me. I'm hurt now. Now I'm offended. Like, that is the brain wiring of my functions, and it will always get triggered because that is just what my default wiring does. So I don't think you can not get triggered. I think that it comes with being able to see your own self as the largest player in the equation, instead of it having anything to do with that observer person in your life that is not getting your issues. That's it. It has nothing to do with the observer in your life, with the decider in your life, the government in your life, the school system in your life, the church system in your life. It has nothing to do with that outside thing. Those things will trigger you. They are still very painful. They still hurt a hell of a lot. So does stubbing your toe. It still is extremely painful. The way to get through it is consciously staring at I'm going to give the exact same answer. Consciously staring at your own wiring, listening to that voice in your own head, being able to stop and pause and reinterpreting the information from the other person as pure. It's good. It's simple. You know, I interpret Dave's actions a lot of the times. He's the poor schmuck in my life as an EJ. I interpret his actions as he is decider telling me blah, blah, blah. No, he lost the hose, or, you know, lost his keys, or lost his wallet, or lost missing information, ... Nothing to do with decider stuff. That's only coming from my wiring, my triggering, and my interpretation. So if I can slow my brain down, I can see the information correctly. And then once you can see the information correctly, yes, that now equal sign, not I need to be more patient with that guy. No. You're going to now need to be more patient with yourself. You're going to need to really, really, really give yourself a break. I'm doing that fucking thing again. I'm doing that weird shit in my brain where I interpreted the information like batshit crazy again. That's okay. I'm going to go love myself by doing something that will make me feel better about the day. And then I'm also going to, you know, write a card that tells my friend or my significant other that I just really appreciate them and love them. And then I'm going to just be patient with that and not try and stop the triggering, not try and force it to not exist. It just is what it is. You sneeze, you know, you sneeze, you're going to sneeze. Your body has a reaction to that thing. And there's nothing wrong with that or trying to stop that. In that process, you will be able to get through it much smoother and therefore not cause more problems on the back end. That's what I would say.
Sounds good. All right. Well,
Really
thank you, everyone,
good.
for all those
Yeah.
questions, and thank you for coming on and watching the stream. We really appreciate it a whole bunch.
We're such STs. Thank you. All right, we did it. We answered these questions. Do you need anything? We're so robot.
I don't know what else to say, honestly.
I know. Like, what's the problem with Blast Less? I'm like, are we done? We're done, right? Did we say all the words? I don't have anything to add.
Wasn't over yet. I'm going to close the live stream, but yeah, if you'll hang around for
okay, great. I'll stick around. Hope you guys are all doing good. Give yourself some love today. Give yourself some peace and patience. I love you guys. I'm thankful for you guys. I hope you give yourself some love and the people around you some love today. And yeah, there's some FE for you. Love, hugs, kisses, all that stuff.
And a
Bye.
fruit basket.
And a fruit basket.
See ya.
Bye.